My name is Lynelle Moore. I am a retired teacher after 30 years. I am the storyteller. I usually tell stories about Anansi the spider. It's a West African and Jamaican folk tale. Anansi can be a spider, and also he can be a man. Today, we'll talk about him almost as a spider. If you really look close at Anansi, he is bald. At one time, long time ago, he had hair. But let me tell you how this happened. One day, a note came to Anansi's house that told him that his mother-in-law had passed. Also, his wife got ready to go to her village for the funeral. Anansi told also, why don't you go ahead and later I'll follow. Elsa said, okay. She got herself all ready to leave, and when she left, Anansi said, well, if I go to this funeral, I better show great sorrow that she has passed. Only way I can do this is I have to refuse to eat. If I'm going to refuse to eat, I better fix myself a big, huge meal. He fixed his meal, he sat and he ate and he ate. When he finished, he put on his mourning clothes and he went to his mother-in-law's house. When he got there, the funeral was starting. And after the funeral, they had a great big feast. Of course, Nancy said, I can't eat. He said, but you can feed all my friends. He said, in respect for my mother-in-law, I can't eat for 8 whole days until the morning time is over. Now imagine, 8 days, no food? Let's find out. Anansi, he said, oh no, just feed my friends but me. For my mother-in-law, I will not eat. That was the first day. The second day, everyone said, Anansi, you can't starve yourself. That is not expected. You can't starve just because someone died. But Anansi was the type of person that he ate 2 times more than anybody else when he ate. When he danced, he danced harder than anybody else. And when he mourned louder than anyone. So, of course, for his mother-in-law's funeral, he had to be known as the greatest mourner of all. So, he could not eat. The third day, everyone said, come on, Anansi, you can't starve yourself. He says, what kind of person would I be if I ate? I have to honor my mother-in-law. Everybody ate, but not Anansi. He was unhappy and he was hungry. On the 4th day, somehow, he ended up next to the big pot of beans that was sitting on the fire. Now, we know what's going to happen if you haven't eaten in 4 days. Nancy looked at the pot. He opened the top up. He smelled the beans. He said, oh, he could not take it another moment. He found a great big long spoon. He put it in there and got the biggest spoonful of beans that he could get. But at that moment, someone came walking up. Could Nancy do that? Mm-mm. He was figuring that he was going to find him a quiet place and he'd sit there and eat all those beans and nobody would know I ate them. But now, and Nancy said, oh, what am I going to do with these? He took his hat, he put the beans all in, and he put his hat on top of his head. Now just think, those beans are hot. And he put them on top of his head. Now other people came and they were eating. And those beans were getting hotter and hotter. Pretty soon, Nancy was wiggling that hat back and forth on his head because it seemed like it was getting hotter and hotter. Pretty soon, everyone started looking up. What are you doing? He says, oh, I'm sorry. At this very moment, in my village, they're having a hat-shaking festival. He said, and I'm shaking my hat to honor them at this moment. Nancy shook the hat a little bit more. It seemed to even get hotter. Pretty soon, he was moving his feet and shaking the hat. And he said, oh, you know, the people in my village, they are shaking their hats and moving their feet right at this moment. I think I need to go and join them. And Nancy started out the door, but his friends were right behind him. No, you can't leave yet. It's been 4 days. You need to eat. And said, what kind of person you think I am? My mother-in-law's just been buried. I can't eat. He said, but I have to go to my village. And he goes out the door, and they go behind him. And they keep, but Nancy, you can't go, you need to eat. And the beans on his head is getting hotter and hotter. He is now dancing and moving the hat back and forth. He says, I got to join him, I got to go. And they all walked out the door. And everyone behind him. Pretty soon, and Nancy couldn't stand it another moment. And he took the hat off. Then there was bean juice all going down his head. The beans were stuck to his head. And everyone saw, Nancy, what are you doing? What have you done? And Nancy was so ashamed that they caught him with the beans on his head, that he ran to the tall grass and he hid because he was so embarrassed. Now, he was trying to show off for these people at the funeral. And look what trouble he got in. He was hungry. He was unhappy. He had the beans on his head. He still didn't have any food in his stomach, but he had beans on his head, and they caught him. So now he's embarrassed. He had to hide from his friends. He ran to the grass because everybody was laughing and talking. Look at Nancy with those beans stuck to his head. That's why today you can find a Nancy still hiding in the grass because of shame. Now, he was trying to impress the people at the funeral. While he was trying to impress them, now, people lost respect for him because he didn't honor his word. 2, he was embarrassed that he had to run away from his own friends. 3, He let those beans stay on his head so long that it burnt all of his head. And so forever, he is now bald. That he will have that as a memory for the rest of his life. Now, moral of the story, when you try to impress and you forget and don't be yourself, when things start going wrong, all you're going to do is end up hurting yourself. That is a story that we all need to remember, that we must always honor ourselves.